Today, we're going to take a closer look at the quintessential dive watch for the everyday collector. Now, this watch has been out for over 10 years and it definitely has its share of fans. In fact, there's a bit of a cult following for this watch. I'm talking about the Casio Duro, aka the Marlin. Now, what makes it so appealing? Besides its 200 meters of water resistance, I think the real kicker here is the more than reasonable price tag of $50. 5 years ago, this watch was selling on Amazon for $42. Today, it's selling on Amazon for $49. Hard to argue with a $7 price increase over 5 years. Now, you can also pick up this watch at the Casio USA site for $75, but why would you? Hey everyone, welcome back to Eric's Everyday Watches. As always, if you like this video, if you find it helpful, please do me a favor, hit the like button and consider subscribing. So first things first, the packaging it comes in. The best way I can describe it is that it is absolutely terrible, if I'm being honest about it. But then again, it's a $50 watch. And so if they spend less than $1 on the packaging it comes in, that seems about right. And I think we can all agree, for $50, spend the money on the watch. We're not going to keep this tagboard box anyhow. But inside, we see what we came for, the Casio Duro. So I put off picking up one of these for myself for a long time, because quite honestly, it is a big boy. It is coming in at 44 millimeters in diameter. Personally, I think of my sweet spot between 40 and 42 millimeters, so it was a bit of a put off. But the lug-to-lug distance here is 48.5 millimeters, so it is quite wearable. Now the case on this is 316 stainless steel, and surprisingly, there is a dual finish, with a brushed finish being on the lugs, and the side of the case has a high polished finish on it. And that's kind of surprising given the fact that this is in fact a $50 watch. I think when we look at this, we have to constantly remind ourselves what the price point is of this. As far as fits and finish, it is very smooth to the touch, surprisingly, again, because it is a $50 watch. There's no sharp angles or edges anywhere on this. Now, on back of the watch, we have a screw-down case back with the Marlin etched into it and text that reads, water-resistant 20-bar stainless steel, as well as Japan movement, and that, of course, is the 2784 movement. So let's talk about the face of the watch, starting with the bezel. It is a 120-click unidirectional bezel. There's a very good feel to it with good action, very little backplay to it. Now it does have an aluminum insert, and this is the black and blue version, aka the Batman. Inside of that, we have a minute track printed directly on the chapter ring. And inside of that, we have the baton and circle indices. Now I've heard once that these might actually be embossed from the back side. And if that is the case, then I am truly impressed. Because one, it absolutely looks like applied indices. And two, the ingenuity of that. If that is what they came up with to keep the cost of this down while not sacrificing the aesthetics, I frickin' love that. I love that out of the box thinking. Now all of the indices are surrounded with metallic and filled with lume. We have round indices around the dial with the exception of the 3, 6, 9 o'clock positions, which are baton indices. And at the 12 o'clock position, we have a doubled up clipped triangle. Below that, we have Casio printed directly on the dial. And down at the 6 o'clock, we have the Marlin. Now, one interesting note about that watches produced in 2021 did not include that Marlin artwork. Apparently, the copyright for it expired and Casio did not renew it that year. Now to me, if you're producing a watch for over 10 years and you have some artwork that is iconic and then all of a sudden it's gone, I think that would raise some questions. And people might actually wonder if the watch you're looking at is authentic. I don't know if that's why it's back, but Either way, I am glad to see that they brought that artwork back. And that, of course, is printed on this black sunburst dial. Now the date window at the 3 o'clock position is outlined in white, and the date itself is printed black on white. So I found that in my everyday use, the font that they chose is just too lightweight. It's too thin to be legible. The arrow-shaped hour hand and the pencil-shaped minute hand have a metallic outline to them and are filled with lume, matching the indices. Now the running second hand on this version is blue to match with the black and blue theme of the bezel. The lume on the hands, indices, and the pip of the bezel all glow a green color on this watch. It does a decent job of lighting up, but of course does not last nearly as long as on a Seiko. And topping all that off, of course, is a flat piece of mineral glass. Let's be honest, for $50, that is really all we can expect here. We are not even close to a sapphire price range. The 2784 module is a quartz movement with quick set dates. It does hack and is rated at plus or minus 20 seconds a month. Now it does have a screw down crown which gives it that 200 meters water resistance. Pulling it out to the first position adjusts the date, and pulling it out to the second position adjusts the time. The resin strap it comes with is an obvious trade-off to keep the price down, and one of the areas that Casio had to cut corners to do so. It's paired with what might be the ugliest buckle I've ever seen. So you have to give them credit for at least keeping things consistent here. Even though the lugs are 22 millimeters in width, the strap itself flares out past that and comes in at 25.5 millimeters just outside of the lugs, and then tapers down to 21 millimeters by the buckle. Overall, the thickness is 2.5 millimeters. In my everyday use, I found the strap to feel like a cheap piece of plastic. But fortunately, at 22 millimeter lug width, you probably have some straps already in your collection that you could swap out for. Whether that is a double pass NATO strap or simply a better looking two-piece strap option. So let's go over the specs for this watch. We have a quartz movement, and that is Casio's 2784 module. We have a flat piece of mineral glass, a diameter of 44 millimeters, a thickness of 12.5 millimeters, a lug width of 22 millimeters, and finally a lug-to-lug distance of 48.5 millimeters. And finally, let's wrap up by going over the pros and cons. For pros, it is a good looking watch with those classic diver aesthetics. You do get 200 meters of water resistance. The time is very legible. You can't argue with that price. And it is a good bezel action. You also get a screw down crown. For cons, that strap is definitely something you're going to want to replace sooner rather than later. It does come with a piece of mineral crystal as opposed to sapphire. It is rather a large watch, 44 millimeters, but it does wear well. And the legibility of that date window, I just did not find it easy to read. So my personal take on this, if you are someone who is new to collecting and you don't yet have a dive watch, this could very possibly be the best dive watch you're going to find for under $50. Or if you're someone who has a lot of dive watches in your collection, and you're looking for something that's going to be more of a beater watch that you don't have to worry about. If either one of those scenarios is you, then perhaps you want to be thinking about doing the Duro. This has been Eric from Eric's Everyday Watches, reminding you to buy the watch that you love and don't pay any attention to what anybody else says or thinks. This is your watch collection. If you like this video, if you find it helpful in any way, please do me a favor, hit the like button and consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.